Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by and watching this video today. This is Stacy, a sentence correction expert over at e-GMAT, and today we're going to be tackling the ever popular OG sentence correction question on Emily Dickinson's letters. But before we get started on this hard question, don't forget to drop a like if this video is helpful to you so we can keep making videos like this for you to help you along your sentence correction journey. So let's get started with this sentence. We're going to use e-GMAT's three-step approach to solve this question. The meaning-based approach starts with you reading slowly through the question. So here's the question and all the answer choices in their entirety. Once you've read through the question slowly that first time, Emily Dickinson's letters to Susan Huntington Dickinson were written over a period beginning a few years before Susan's marriage to Emily's brother and ending shortly before Emily's death in 1886, outnumbering her letters to anyone else. Now, our tendency may be to read through this one time quickly and then dive into those answer choices, but I want you to not do that. Prevent that urge and make sure that you really stop. Work through the sentence slowly. Really break the sentence into smaller chunks. Look at that sentence structure and really extract the meaning and understand what the author is intending to communicate here. And if you use those chunks of the sentence and see how everything's working together, you're really going to be able to see what the meaning is and also identify any errors that may be messing up that meaning and not communicating the author's message properly. So as we do this, we read Emily Dickinson's letters to Susan Huntington Dickinson were written over a period. So right away, I know that I have these letters from Emily Dickinson. So I'm going to refer to her as ED moving forward, just to make things easier. So I have letters, and these letters were to Susan Huntington Dickinson, so we'll refer to her as SHD. And these letters were written over a period. So we keep reading, and we find out that this period is being described as beginning a few years before Susan's marriage to Emily's brother. And this period is ending shortly before Emily's death in 1886. So I have these two modifiers that are describing the extent of this period. Makes complete sense. And as I continue reading, I find out that these letters outnumbering her letters to anyone else. So this is telling me that these letters that were written are outnumbering her letters. So this must be her referring to Emily Dickinson's letters to anyone else. Okay, so now that I seem to have extracted some basic understanding of the meaning, I need to ask myself some very basic questions. And the first question is, as the sentence is structured, is the meaning clear? And if you noticed, as we were reading through this, everything seemed to flow really smoothly until I got to this bottom piece. And you'll notice that with sentence correction, that when we get to certain pieces, things seem to, that don't fit or that aren't structured correctly, tend to make us pause in our reading and we can't read them as smoothly. And that would be the case here because this comma plus verb ing modifier outnumbering seems to be the presenting the effect of the action of writing these letters over this period. And that meaning is completely illogical here. It makes no sense to say that because Emily Dickinson wrote letters to Susan Huntington Dickinson over a certain period, that she wrote more letters than anyone else. That period has nothing to do with anything. So we have an illogical meaning here based on this comma plus verb ing modifier. So when you get that sense, when you're reading through the sentence, something doesn't seem quite right, and you kind of stumble with that fluency, that's kind of a key indicator. So once we have that meaning not being clear, then we need to ask ourselves, okay, so what is the author trying to communicate? What what is being said here? So that's when we start working to pull the key aspects of the sentence together so we know what we're looking for in the answer choices. So what is the logical intended meaning? Well, as we move forward, we will see that the first chunk of the sentence that is right up here tells us that Emily Dickinson wrote letters to SHD over a certain period of time. And then we get the second chunk. This period of time began prior to the marriage of SHD and to ED's brother, and then ended just before she died. So we have statements of facts. The letters were written, this period of time began and ended. Everything is super clear here and makes complete and logical sense so far. So now we get to this messy modifier part. What could the author be trying to say here? Maybe they're trying to say that ED's letters to SHD outnumbered her letters to anyone else, which makes complete logical sense. So again, she's just making a statement of fact. The period of time when the letters were written has nothing to do with the fact that these letters outnumbered her letters to anyone else. So now that we have these aspects that we've pulled from these chunks of our sentence because we read slowly and we were able to pull those key aspects of meaning, now we can ask that really important question of, are there any grammatical errors in this sentence? And as we found through our meaning analysis that yes, indeed, there are some grammatical errors in the sentence because we have that modifier error, which is leading to a meaning error. So we've now completed our meaning analysis, and in doing a really thorough job with our meaning analysis, we're able to easily complete our error analysis. So our next step is to move forward with our answer choice analysis. So we're going to use that process of elimination. We're going to start with choice A, which we've already really dealt with because of our error analysis. And we know that we have that modifier error, which leads to a meaning error as we discussed. So we can confidently reject choice A and we can move on to choice B. Now, in choice B, we need to take a look at a few things because we start off right away. Emily Dickinson's letters to Susan Huntington Dickinson were written. So we have our original verb that we saw here, were written. And then it seems like we have an additional verb, outnumber, here. So it seems like we have two verbs here for letters. Letters were written, letters outnumber. But if you notice, there's no connector for these. We don't have an and or any kind of conjunction connecting these two verbs. So we have that verb structure error. And then in addition to that, if you notice, over a period that begins. So we have the present tense begins. And we know from the context of our sentence that we are dealing in a past time period in 1886. So we would need a past tense verb of began in order for choice B to indeed be correct. So we're going to reject choice B on those grounds. So we move on to choice C. Now, choice C is a pretty interesting option, and there's a few things going on here. So if we work our way through choice C, we can see that we have Dickinson written over a period beginning a few years before Susan's marriage to Emily's brother that ends shortly before. So we have these two modifiers that seem to be describing this period. So it looks like we're creating a list here. However, we have a phrase and then we have a clause. And we know that we cannot have a phrase parallel to a clause. So this portion of a sentence creates a parallel list that is not grammatically correct. So we're going to reject that portion of choice C on those grounds. And then also, if we keep digging into this clause a little bit further, we'll see the use of ends here. And again, the use of the present tense verb is incorrect because, as we discussed, the context of this sentence clearly tells us we need a past tense verb. Therefore, we would reject on a verb tense error too. And then finally, if we keep working through choice C, we see and outnumbering. And this is a structural error here. There seems to be no connection for this modifier anywhere in the sentence. There is no entity in the sentence that and outnumbering is really connecting to. So we have that as an additional error for choice C. So we are going to reject choice C for multiple reasons here. Now moving on to choice D, we notice right away that now we have this noun modifier which sitting here. And I want to make sure that you understand that though we do have other errors in choice D, which is indeed correct here, it can actually modify the letters. It's a slightly far away noun modification. And I know some of you are probably wondering, well, hold on, can which jump over that prepositional phrase to SHD that's sitting in its way? But indeed it can, because that prepositional phrase is also modifying the letters, and it is okay for a slightly far away noun modifier to hop over another modifier that's modifying the same noun entity. However, choice D has additional errors. We have a subject verb must exist error. If you look at this structure here, letters does not have a verb that's associated with it. We have Emily Dickinson's letters, but there's no verb in the rest of the sentence that letters is associated with. And the second error is we seem to have a list of modifiers here describing period again. So we have beginning, ending, and outnumbering seems to be connected to this list, but this is logically a list that is not parallel. So we would have that modifier error leading to a parallelism error because this list is now illogical. So we're going to reject choice D on those grounds and move on to choice E. Now choice E is looking like our correct answer choice. We have Emily Dickinson's letters. We have that proper verb association for the letters outnumber here. So check on that. We do have the use of which as that slightly far away noun modifier, but again, as we discussed, it is okay to have that slightly far away noun modification. This modifier can jump over that prepositional phrase because they are both modifying the same noun entity, letters. So this is completely okay and is grammatically and logically correct. So choice E in this situation is indeed our correct answer. So I hope that helps you solve this question and you have clarity on this hard question. If you found the solution video helpful, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you are notified when we post more videos like this. Happy learning!